Hi, and welcome to Living My Fest Life, a podcast about festivals, fairs, events, and experiences, everything from the nationally known to the local and obscure. And today I'm finally going to get to talk about an experience, one that I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time with one of my friends. We're going to be talking about how to plan a month-long road trip. And I'm here with my friend Shelby Newman, who is a realtor extreme, and we're going to be talking about a 1-month road trip. So, Shelby, can you tell me a little bit about where you went on your 1-month road trip?
Oh my gosh, we went just about everywhere. So this trip started because I needed an experience that was unlike anything that I had done before, and I wanted to take my little sister along.
Okay, why did you decide to take your little sister?
She was graduating from college, and she's going to do incredible, awesome things with her life, but it's going to take her giving a lot of her time. And I knew that this was the opportunity for us to just leave and get out and do something insane that we wouldn't have done otherwise. And she's also my very best friend. So yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to, I have to have this.
So coordinating schedules, what was that like?
Thankfully, it was pretty easy. She was on break from school between her junior and senior year, and I'm a real estate agent, and that gives me incredible flexibility because I have awesome people that I work with who were able to basically take over my business. And
so it's not easy for everyone, but luckily it fell into place for you guys, and I'm sure you moved a lot of stuff around to be able to make this work.
Oh, absolutely. My business was obviously incredibly important, but I was blessed enough to be surrounded by people who were willing to take on additional work in order for me to have the experience.
So why did you decide that you wanted to do an event where you could drive? Why was that? Was that important to you, or is it just how it worked out?
No, it was absolutely important. So the entire point of this trip was to go to this music festival in Oregon called the Northwest String Summit.
And Northwest String Summit. I've never heard about that.
Yeah, so not a lot of people from Cincinnati or even anybody on the east side of the country have probably heard of it.
So we got an obscure festival already.
Yes, it is a relatively obscure bluegrass, jamgrass, love fest of wonderfulness.
And where's it held?
It is held 20 minutes from Portland, believe it or not.
Okay.
In this dust bowl every year, and it's incredible. But we knew that was going to be kind of the climax of the trip.
And why did that turn you on? I mean, not turn. I'm not. Why was that? Was there a group that you follow that you knew was going to be there, or is this something that you'd seen on Instagram, or how did you even find out about it?
So a few of my favorite bluegrass bands were going to be there, but
you have favorite bluegrass bands? I am learning so much about you.
I absolutely have favorite bluegrass bands. In fact, bluegrass and jamgrass is probably the favorite genre of music of mine.
You're fascinating me right now. Okay.
Well, I knew a few people who had gone before, and they had incredible experiences. And then it also just so happened that my favorite bluegrass bands were going to be there.
Which are what?
Green Sky Bluegrass and the infamous String Dusters.
You are making these names up.
I am not. They're real, I swear.
Infamous String Dusters.
Yes.
Not to be confused with the famous String Dusters.
No, they're not really as good.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't worry about them.
Okay, so you knew you wanted to go to this, so you say, I'm going to plan a way to get there where I can stop in multi-cities. Is that what you guys did?
Yeah, so we basically started in Cincinnati and just headed west straight through Kansas, and then got to Colorado, spent some time in Colorado, spent some time in Utah, drove through Nevada, and ended up in Oregon. And we had very specific spots along the way that we chose for very specific reasons.
Were they mostly national parks or places that you knew you could stay, or were there landmarks that you wanted to hit?
So both. So for example, my sister was born in Kansas City, Kansas, and that's kind of where I grew up. So we went to go and visit my mom's very best friend in Kansas City, and then we drove by the house that my sister was born into, basically.
That's so adorable.
Yeah, it was very...
Did you knock on the door?
No, but we definitely took a lot of pictures for Instagram outside of it.
Okay. You weren't hey, we used to live here. Miranda Lambert wrote a whole song about that, I think.
I didn't do anything in my closet or the attic to prove that I lived here, so I was just this picture will suffice.
Okay, so you started off Kansas City, then you went to Colorado, you said?
Yep, so we went to Denver and spent a few days in Denver, in the city, to kind of slowly ease ourselves into the large amount of camping that we were about to do.
So that was part of the plan, is we know we can afford hotels in some cities, but we're going to have to substantiate most of this by camping. Is that what your plan was?
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad built us this incredible sleeping platform for the back of my Subaru Outback, and we were 100% committed to the idea of spending every single night in the car if we had to.
And how did that go?
We only spent one night in the car. We did camp, but we tent camped most of the times, and we were in campsite. And the West is totally different than I feel like it is out here. You can roll up in pretty much any city and find a place to camp.
Wait, so did you have to look at maps and know that they were a campsite and make reservations, or did you just pull up and say, hey, you got a spot free?
So before I left for the trip, I thought that I was going to have to plan every single campsite before I got there. I was convinced that they were all going to be sold out, that there wasn't going to be anywhere for us to sleep, that like we were just going to have to pull off on the side of the highway, but that was not the case at all. There was always space for us no matter where we went, and oftentimes the places that we ended up were even better than the ones that I had like planned for us to stop at.
So how did you find them along the way? Did you Google it?
Yeah, yes and no. A lot of it was like asking Instagram, honestly. Like,
Oh, really?
hey, we're going to be in this area. Has anyone ever been here before? Where did you stay? Why would you choose to stay there? We also didn't, once we were out west, we didn't use Google Maps at all. We used an atlas, like an actual.
Like an actual map that you have to learn how to read when you're 5 and figure out north
Yeah.
and okay.
Yeah. But it was so easy out there because, you know, there you're just getting on different highways and byways and like.
I feel like you told me one time that you went somewhere and the cell service went out and you guys were lost. Is that true?
We did. That happened a few times to us, actually, but that was why it was so cool to be able to look at a map and be like, okay, cool. Our GPS thinks that we're 3 states away, but we can get from the southern part of Colorado to Utah without.
That's a dumb question. Where do you even get like an updated map? I feel like they don't even update them.
Okay. I bought one before our trip specifically because it was like the national park version.
Oh,
and
cute.
I just thought that it was cool because it had a bunch of information on national parks in front. And then it actually ended up being the most useful tool that we brought on the trip.
Okay, so what other tools would you suggest if anybody's taking a 1-month road trip? What are the necessary survival packing items?
Oh dear. Make sure you have something to boil water in because coffee is really important at this point.
So you need a pot. We went camping at that yurt that one time. You brought those burners. Yes. Is that what you brought?
Yeah. So my Jetboil is my like very best friend.
Okay.
And that wasn't what we used because my sister and I never needed as much cooking space or like a cooktop like we needed when we were in the yurt. So the Jetboil basically can just boil water for you or make like instant camp food. And that, I would say we pulled that out more than anything else, mostly to make coffee though.
Okay, so coffee, tent camping stuff. Don't think you're going to sleep in your car because it's going to get really hot and you don't want to burn your battery out probably.
Oh my goodness, let me tell you the best story about the entire trip. Okay, so we pulled into Moab, Utah.
Desert.
And we went in July and it is 105 degrees at night.
Yikes.
Yeah. And we pulled into this campsite, not realizing this campsite was literally on a river. And we were like, great, okay, we're going to hop out of the car. We're going to get in the back. It's going to be awesome. The minute we open the door, the car is swarmed with bugs.
No. What kind?
I don't know, but I mean hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
I hate it already.
And we panicked.
Yeah.
And then we had to leave the windows open. And we had window coverings, but the bugs were already in the car. And it was so bad. It was our first night of camping.
Did you have like bug spray or anything to protect yourself?
It was past that.
Okay. So you're they live here now.
Think like locusts in the Bible.
I'm just thinking like scarab beetables in the mummy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like skin crawling. Ugh. So we ended up forfeiting and going to a hotel.
Okay.
And it was awful. But that was like how our trip started as far as camping is.
That was your first camp one?
Oh yeah. And it was so bad.
So how do you recover from something like that? Because I'm sure like being on the road for a month and being with the same person and doing this like day after day, you got to like set up camp, you got to figure out where you're going, you got to look at the map. How exhausting does that get?
Honestly, we got to a point where it all started making a lot more sense. In the beginning, we fumbled over each other and we fought and nothing like crazy, but just we didn't have a routine down. And by the end, we were the most efficient people ever. Like we knew exactly what we were doing. We knew exactly who was responsible for what. And it was incredible.
Did you have to split the driving?
We did split the driving. For the most part, I still probably did more driving because I enjoy driving more. But she was so incredibly helpful. I originally thought that maybe I would do this trip by myself, and I can't imagine ever not doing it with her.
I think it would be very tough to do that solo.
Yeah, I think that I might have gone crazy if I tried to do it.
Just even the mental stimulation, like you need that, especially after driving. Or like, did you run into any creepy people? Did anybody kind of scare you? Or are you glad you had someone with you?
Oh, no. We never had any in fact, we met incredible people along the way.
Okay, tell me about that.
So, for example, we went to Great Sand Dunes National Park, which is in Colorado, and you would think that you were in Egypt. Like, they are these giant... I hope everyone goes to Great Sand Dunes National Park.
Where is that?
That's a...
America. We learn geography. We do stuff. We don't read maps. We don't know where things are. America.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's basically like we went to Denver and then we headed south. My friend Brian told me to go, and...
Yes, you told me that. You said... I wasn't planning on going, right? You said but I got a suggestion that says go to Great Sand Dunes.
Yes. So my friend Brian basically planned the entire, Colorado trip, and he was wonderful for it. So we went there and we were so taken aback. We met this guy, and he was maybe a little bit creepy, but more along the lines of super flirty. And it's like,
he's like, you girls out here by yourself?
He was definitely from New Mexico, so he didn't sound anything like that.
Okay, but I just picture all guys approaching women like that.
But he was pretty cool, and there are like these waterfalls there, and we...
Wait, in the sand dunes there's waterfalls?
Yeah, so there's this place to camp, and it's called Zapata Falls.
Zapata Falls.
Yes, and you have to have like a 4x4 car to be able to get to this campsite. But the campsite is so worth it and incredible, so definitely check that out if you're going to go to Great Sand Dunes. We met him there. We ended up like hanging out all night, smoking a bunch of weed, having a ton of fun. And then in the morning, like before we went to bed, my sister turned to me and she's like, we have to leave before he wakes up in the morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is not a guy who wants sticking around being like, so where are we going today, girls?
Right. That was exactly how that was. So we got in our car and we left. But at the same time, he was great. The most influential people we met, though, were definitely at Crater Lake.
Your photos were fucking amazing from Crater Lake.
That is the best experience of my life. Hands down, I will 100% stand by that until I die. That Crater Lake, jumping in Crater Lake was the best experience of my life.
It is now a bucket list item for me to jump in Crater Lake after seeing you and your sister jump in Crater Lake.
Yeah, it was incredible. We met this super sweet couple. They were older. We showed up at sunset just to watch the sunset at this like overview or whatever. Well, there were old people everywhere taking pictures of the sunset, and I'm like, well, y'all are the cutest people I've ever seen in my life.
With their professional cameras?
Right, yes. And you could tell that they drive their RVs around and they just take incredible pictures because they have probably taken 100 hours of photography courses and they know what they're doing. I have a beautiful camera and all of the accessories, but I have no idea how to use it. So I just turned to this couple and I was like, how are you taking those pictures? And she was like, with a camera and a tripod. I'm like, haha, so funny.
Yeah.
But then she offered to help me, and she sat with me for almost an hour and taught me how to use my camera.
Because it's so confusing. It's like shutter speed and aperture and all these things. And if you want to read the manual, sure, good luck falling asleep. But so had you not busted the camera out and taken professional pictures before that moment?
Not like with my tripod or at a certain time or anything like that.
So you're seeing beautiful sights, you're meeting nice people, and they're actually teaching you things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think I learned more like on this trip and from this trip than I ever had in any amount of time.
Okay, so Crater Lake, sand dunes. Now, I know like when I wanted to go to Antelope State Park, they were like, hey, there's like a permit lottery, like you can't go all the time, you have to enter, things like that. Did you plan ahead for things like that, or you were like, I'm just going to go in and see if a ranger's going to kick me out?
Yeah, we didn't really do anything that needed something like that. I've been in situations where that has been the case before, but we weren't really planning on doing anything super strenuous or super crazy, only because we knew we were moving so much. Mm-hmm. So we only spent, roughly a day in each location.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah, we were driving a lot. We crammed the most into the amount of time we had, but we did it because we kind of pictured this as like our quick drive-by of the West. We were just gonna kind of, book it through there, so we knew where we wanted to go back and actually spend our time. Okay. So for example, we really want to go back to Grand Staircase, which is in Utah, and spend probably a week and a half there, but we only had 2 days. Okay. I guess.
So you got like the Cliff Notes version of the Grand Staircase.
Right, yeah, and pretty much everything else that we did.
Okay.
And then
did you like go like, oh, I wish we had more time, but like you really had to like kind of get on the road because you knew you had to hit so many points before you got to your grand event.
Right, exactly. So it was nice because we were there long enough, but we also didn't feel guilty when we were leaving because we knew we had an intention at our next stop and then eventually at this music festival.
Okay, so what was the most difficult part? Showering? figuring out places to...
Showering was difficult. We probably stayed at a hotel every 5 days or so. So there wasn't any extreme amount of time.
A lot of dry shampoo.
A lot of bandanas.
Okay,
bandanas. A lot of hats. And it was my sister, right?
Yeah.
So we're used to just being disgusting around each other.
Oh, for sure. That's what sisters do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There was no it wasn't like we were with a guy and we had to be cute and romantic or whatever. We were disgusting human beings.
You were pigtails again.
Yeah.
Happening.
For sure. Even though if you've ever seen my sister, she is a super
the most adorable person in the fucking world.
Yeah, believe me, her 4 days and my 4 days looked very different.
She's just basically modeling on top of a mountain. I'd be in the dirt rolling around like a pig.
I was the one on the phone with the camera okay, I've been in the grass for 4 hours now.
Did you get your shot?
Yeah.
Do it for the gram. Okay, so showering's probably difficult. Anything else that you would say, hey, just be prepared? Well, for the bugs in your car, obviously. Anything else?
Yeah. Honestly, I would say the kind of mental toughness that goes along with this kind of trip. I am naturally someone who loves travel, but it still took me some getting used to of being away and not having any kind of schedule or routine. Also, actually leaving. That was probably the hardest part. I cried the first hour of our trip.
Aww.
Because I didn't feel prepared enough. But the reality is that anything you need, you can get.
Yeah, it's called Target.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And Targets are all over the country.
Yeah,
And so that was probably the most stressful part, was getting ready to leave. And then actually going and knowing that you weren't going to be back for 30 days.
I just feel I would get homesick after probably 9 or 10 days. And then I read somewhere that it takes your brain even 6 or 7 days to fully form that you're on vacation, enough to relax into vacation mode.
Yeah, and I probably held on to work for a few days.
I'm sure you felt guilty.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I had clients that were in the middle of transactions and making important decisions. And while I 100% trusted the people that I handed them off to, I was still their person. So to step back and realize that they were in the most incredible hands possible and that they felt comfortable there probably took me about a week or so.
How many times did you end up checking your work email?
Ooh. Through Kansas City and then to Denver. And then once we left Denver, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm
Oh,
done.
you threw your phone out the window.
Basically, yeah. I was like, if I didn't need this for Instagram, then I probably would.
Well, we don't need it to find the next target. Exactly.
Yes.
So tell me about the festival and getting there. Were you like, hey, we drove a month to be here?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we did not, the first and foremost, biggest thing, we didn't know we were going to lose cell phone service.
Outside of Portland, or just anywhere along the road?
Specifically at this music festival. So when we left Portland to head into this music festival, it's literally only half an hour away. We didn't tell our parents that we were on our way there. I didn't tell anyone that was important to me that I was on my way there.
And you've been gone.
And I've been gone for, at that point, 15 days or so, more than 15 days.
And then you go off the grid. Holy fuck.
And then I disappear. And not only do I disappear, but so from my parents' perspective, their youngest and oldest child both disappeared into the night one night and didn't resurface for 5 days.
Fathers, hold on to your daughters, because they're going to go on a road trip and you won't hear from them.
That was basically how that went. Thankfully, my mom was able to reach out to my husband at the time, and he was like, here's the live feed of the music festival.
God.
You should watch the music festival and try and see
They're
them
those
in
two girls that haven't showered in a week, standing up.
Oh, we would have completely blended in there.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so jam band, hippies, a lot of barefoot. Where's the good food?
No.
No? Okay, so...
No. Okay, so this is a camping festival. You go in and you find your campsite and you plop yourself down and then you're responsible.
So what was the highlight of the festival?
Okay, so Green Sky Bluegrass did a 2 a.m. set one night, and my sister and I were on a bunch of mushrooms, and it was just incredible.
I love it. Sounds like my nightmare. I would have been freaking out. I'd be like, why aren't we all asleep? Everybody, can we collectively decide to go asleep right now?
No.
I just can't stay out late.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Well, it was, oh my gosh. And it was perfect because in Portland at that time, the weather is awesome. It's just cool enough that you're enjoying yourself and everyone around you is having the most incredible time of their life.
Was it a young festival? Were a lot of different ages there?
So that's the beautiful thing about bluegrass is that everyone listens to bluegrass. There are young kids there.
Do they?
Yeah, it's true. They do, though. So my favorite bluegrass listener is a couple in their mid-30s that have 2 kids. One of them is a toddler and one of them is a baby, and they both have those big giant earphones.
I love the babies with the giant earphones. It's like, we're here to party.
Right, and they're having so much fun, and they're dancing to music that you know is not going to, like, destroy their brains or, like, give them these terrible perceptions of humanity. And
Yes, you're going to enjoy your body when you get older because you don't have to feel invalidated by
Right.
men.
Yes.
Thank you, Bluegrass.
Right, and everyone's just talking about, like, smoking weed and having a good time, and everyone knows everyone. It's a giant family. So you see the same people at concerts in Cincinnati.
So Whispering Beard, things like that, would they come to that?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
For example, Infamous Dream Dusters was just here for, I think it's called Paradise on the Point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
And they come to Cincinnati pretty regularly. Actually, both bands come to Cincinnati pretty regularly. So that's how I found them in the first place. So to be able to see them then in this, like, incredible Dust Bowl in Oregon was just unreal.
Very cool. Okay, are there any lowlights of the festival? Or things that people should be prepared for?
Well, low points were probably, my sister wasn't always the biggest fan of mushrooms, and if you ever had a bad mushroom trip, that's not something you ever want to enjoy. But as far as the festival's concerned, I would say get there early, like super early for pack-in, because you want to get a good spot.
You want to get a good campsite. Okay, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've done camping. I went to Dave Matthews Band and we did camping then, and it just seems like people come out with their Volkswagen buses with the band logo painted on the side, and you just kind of walk around and see what everybody's doing, and it is really like a community feel when you do the camping.
Yeah, and it's so neat to see everyone else's setup because people move in. Like, they're there for a week, and they've got, like, full kitchen sets and, like, kegs of beer and all these things. And then there's, you know, my sister and I who have been camping in a tent for the last 2 weeks, but it's a pretty modest setup, and we're eating, like, fruit roll-ups and applesauce out of a pouch, and these people are, like, making gourmet meals. But then they also sell that food, or they'll give it to you, and they want, you know, everyone wants to make sure that everyone has everything, and it's such a beautiful, incredibly beautiful thing.
And do you feel like not having cell phone service kind of immersed you in the experience so you could enjoy it more, or was it not as good?
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah, I figured you would, yeah.
If I could have, like, thrown my phone out the window in Kansas, I probably would have done that.
You're just gonna Devil Wears Prada, like, right into the fucking fountain. Screw this job.
Yes.
Not everybody wants to be us.
Yeah.
I like situations that force me to be off my phone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this was perfect because I was able to, you know, take the pictures, take the videos that I wanted to take without feeling the need to immediately post them.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to do all of that and then go back and relive the experience that I had without being like, oh, I wish I would have posted this picture instead of that one. Or I wish I would have made this the caption instead of that.
That's such
like,
a great
it was
point.
it was so great. And I still have all the memories.
Hold back, everybody. That's what she's saying. Just
Yeah.
hold it back and enjoy it for a while.
Okay, that's something that I've applied to, like, every other situation that I've been in recently. Whenever I've done anything else, I'd be like, cool, take these pictures, wait 3 days, decide what you want to put on the internet and what you want to keep for yourself.
It's such a good point because we're so much about immediate gratification and people got to be knowing what we're doing at all times. It's like, no, just keep a little secret.
It's so true.
Okay, so if I were to be planning a 1-month road trip, how much do you think is a reasonable budget? And how much do you think, if you could do it again, would you change?
Cool.
I know that's a, well, I'm just thinking if everybody else is like, this is a really great idea, but that sounds expensive. I don't know if I can take off that work. Like, are there any modifications? I mean, you guys camped a lot of the time, so I'm sure you spent, like, what, $20 a campsite?
Less than that. There were some campsites where we didn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
So I would say it's also difficult for me because my sister was in between school years in college. And so as the big sister, I was basically like, I'm going to take you on this road trip and you are not financially responsible for it.
Wow, that's a good big sister.
Yeah, there are times where I wish I wasn't the oldest because I would love a big sister.
I'm giving you the medal. My sister's probably listening to this. Fuck you, Katie. Come on, step it up. Taking me to Dave Matthews Band, making me camp outside.
Oh, but as far as a budget's concerned, you could very easily do what we did on less than $1,000.
Wow, that's good to hear. What websites would you suggest people go to look up stuff?
Reddit.
Reddit, really?
Yeah, I used Reddit for pretty much everything that we did.
I usually use TripAdvisor, and then sometimes if I'm going to a landmark that I know, I'll go to Instagram and then go to different pages. I've actually slid into a couple girls' DMs and been like, hey, I'm going to this town. What are the things that you would recommend?
Oh, yeah. I've definitely done that in other situations. So Reddit and Google Maps. But Google Maps so you can place where it is that you want to go. And then, this was another tip from Brian, look at the geographical map of where it is that you are. So if you want to find other mountains, pull up the geographical map of where you are and like look for the other marked mountains.
Nope, that sounds too hard.
No, it's so easy.
Which ones are the mountains? The little triangles that they put on the map?
Well, you'll see them because they're green and pointy.
Okay. I've always wanted to go to a hot spring, but like a hidden one that they're like, all the locals know about.
Okay, but we're going to do that then.
Okay. We need to find a little hot spring and just go skinny dipping. That's on my bucket list too.
Sounds great. Count me in.
Okay. So anything else you want to tell people about 1 month road trip or taking your bucket list trip while you still can?
I want to say I know this is the most stereotypical thing, but just get in your fucking car and drive. Just do it. Just put yourself out there. You're going to get to a point where you're going to be like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? And you just need to look down at your map and go.
You guys, the Russians are going to raise these gas prices so high now. Let's just fucking do it while we can.
It's true. That and get yourself a Subaru.
Okay. And what was the name of the festival again that you went to?
Northwest String Summit.
Northwest String Summit. All right. I'll drop all that information in the wrap up, and you can follow Shelby Newman on Instagram and see pictures from her trip maybe, so you can maybe even slide into her DMs and be like, where did you go, how did you plan this, because it looked incredible, it looked amazing, and I'm so fucking jealous.
Yeah, absolutely. Please feel free. I would love to answer any questions, and obviously I would want to hear about your trip, so if anyone else goes on a trip and they want to share anything with me.
Sharing is caring. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Yay!
I'm living my best life.
Special thanks to my friend Shelby for talking to me about her 1 month road trip, something I've always wanted to do, and I think it was so cool to hear how she planned that. She also talked about the Northwest String Summit. You can find more information on that at stringsummit.com. The lineup looks really great. They have festival info, a map. It looks like they have ambassadors that can tell you a little bit about more of the camping experience. Yoga and mindfulness, they have a gallery there. It actually looks super cool. It's nothing I'd ever heard about before, so check out, the String Summit if you're into bluegrass. And that is usually held in July of every year. If you haven't been following our Instagram, we do have an Instagram. It's called Living My Fest Life Podcast. And if you follow that, I can link you to Shelby's Instagram so you can follow her and see pictures from her 1 month trip. And if you have a festival idea, please send it to festlifepodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear about it. Shout out to Phil at comPODre for doing the editing for our show. And thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.